Hi, I'm Beth with TB Properties Buys Land. Do you have inherited land that you're ready to sell? What are some of the questions that you need answered before you can sell that property? Now, yesterday I was speaking with a nice lady who sadly lost her mother just last month. And, on top of the grief that she is suffering, she's trying to go through all this paperwork for all of her mother's estate and property. And she wasn't sure how to begin moving forward with the sale of the land. Her mother had received a letter in the mail from TB Properties Buys Land with an offer to buy her property. But she wasn't sure how to proceed because there was no will. And she wasn't even sure if the property was in her mother's name or if it was in her grandmother's name. So what I wanted to address today were some of the questions that we asked her, some of the questions that you're going to want to ask yourself when moving forward. So what we asked her, first of all, was, does she have a deed to that property? Now, if she doesn't have a deed, it's not the end of the world. When we send this to title will pull up the deeds from all the past transactions for that particular property. But the reason we were asking is we wanted to know who was on the deed to that property. And so we wanted to know who owned that property. And if that was the grandmother, we need to know who all the heirs to the property were. So if that was owned by the grandmother, how many children did she have? And are any of those children, alive? And if they're not, if they're deceased, do they have children? So the big question is, how many heirs to the property are there? And do you know who they are? So the bottom line is that all heirs to the property have to sign the contract in order to sell the property, and then they have to sign the closing statements. Otherwise, you cannot legally convey that property. So even though you've been paying property taxes on it forever, that doesn't mean that it's legally yours. Okay, so first of all, this isn't legal advice. And every state and every county is different. Different states have different laws that make it easier or more difficult to sell inherited property. And that's all, for reasons of protecting the landowner. Okay, but so that was one of the questions that we asked her is who all might have a stake in this property. And being in Texas, this is where the property is located, we knew that we could remedy the chain of title through affidavits of heirship. So we explained that process to her, but we told her that we did need to know, who all might have a stake in that property. And if she thinks that she's the only surviving heir, then we can move forward. And if she's not, we just need to make sure that everybody who has a stake in that can and is willing to sign off on the property. Okay, so this is just one example of a case study that we're working with inherited land. So if you have inherited land and the property, you don't have a will, it hasn't been probated, it is possible to move forward and sell that property. Not every time will it happen, but if we can go through this process together with you, we can most likely answer that question of whether you can do that or not. Still, what we're going to do, the process is, after we identify that she's the only living heir, we're going to send out a purchase agreement to her. It's one page, and we're going to let her review that. If she has any questions, we'll answer those questions. If she's ready to sign, we make it easy by sending over an e-sign format. And if she wants, she can mail it in. She can print it and sign it and mail it in, or scan it and email it in. Doesn't matter how you sign the contract. It goes to the title company. And the title company is going to hold on to that contract for a couple weeks probably before they turn over a title commitment. Depends on the area and the title company how fast they can get that out. So we review the title commitment. That's going to tell us anything that she needs to do to remedy the chain of title, whether she needs an affidavit of heirship, she needs to submit death certificates or anything like that. And it tells what we might need to do. And it shows any red flags about the property, if there's any liens against it, or if it's in a flood zone or doesn't have access. It tells us all those fun things. And once all those things are remedied and approved, we say, we're ready to close. And then title company sends out the closing paperwork, and she will sign her deed to the property in front of a notary, and they will notarize that, and she will overnight that with the label to the title company, and we will send our funds via wire transfer to the title company. Once the title company has the funds from us that are certified, once they have her paperwork overnighted and our paperwork overnighted, they will record the sale of the transaction and she will be funded. So it's pretty easy how it works. Depending on how cloudy the chain of title is, it could delay how long it takes to close. Okay, so maybe we're looking at 3 to 4 weeks. for a normal close if you own the property outright. If there's a cloud in the chain of title, could be 4 weeks, 6 weeks, a month, or 2 months. It could take longer. So we will try to answer your questions as straightforwardly as we can. You always have the option to talk to the title company, ask them questions directly as well. But if you have an inherited land and you're interested in selling it, please feel free to reach out to TB Properties Buys Land. We're happy to answer any questions you might have, and we look forward to working with you. Thanks again.